Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me. Today is episode 205. It's gonna be a great day because we're gonna be doing part 1 of the Damascus steel tin whistle. Fabulous to have you here. Okay, so here's a typical tin whistle. It's about 16 millimeters in diameter, 5/8 of an inch in diameter. It's got a bunch of holes in it, and it's about kind of 9 or 10 inches long as the tube. There's this thing that's attached to it, which is awesome because it means that I'm gonna make a bar of Damascus. Probably gonna leave it 1.25 inches round, much thicker than this. The bar of Damascus itself is just gonna be twisted Damascus, but the cool thing is then as I take this onto the lathe, then I break it down, it's gonna have some really funky patterns emerge out of the twist as the result of taking it down. So, what I'm gonna be making is I'm gonna be making the Damascus steel for this today. I'm gonna turn it down into a parallel bar, then tomorrow we're gonna do the rest of the machining to get the functional tin whistle. Okay, so the plan right now is I'm going into the forge, I'm gonna let all the pieces get up to a red temperature, red or an orange, hit it together, flux it, you know the drill, you've seen me do this before, then we're gonna heat it up near molten, hammer this puppy together, and we're gonna weld it. Is I've drawn this down into a round cross section. That's great. I've made 2 squares on the end so I can hold it with hold it in the vice jaws and then hold it with an adjustable spanner so that I can twist it. So obviously the next step on this piece is I'm going to want to come out of the forge, put it in this vice. This is a nicely mounted leg vice. It's enormous. It's got 8-inch wide jaws. It's actually French, which is pretty cool. I like this vice a lot. I'm going to put it in this vice, and then I'm going to want to twist it. Now this is a really thick piece of steel, so I'm going to want a lot of leverage, but I'm also going to want to keep it centered. I've done only a couple of twisted pieces of Damascus before, and you'll have noticed I used an adjustable wrench. What do they call these? Adjustable nut rounders? Yeah, there we go. Adjustable nut rounder. The trouble is when you just use one of these and you start wrenching on it, you bend the thing, and it's a whole hassle. So what I'm gonna do is I bought this cheapo nut rounder. This is an official nut rounder because it has a nice little bit of nut rounding wobble in there. I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna take this piece of tool steel. It's not really tool steel, but it's 4340. I'm gonna attach this to this. That way I get a lot more leverage and I can kind of spin it from the middle and hopefully keep this straight and get a nice tight twist. So my plan, where's my Sharpie? Damn it, I don't have a Sharpie. This is like my dream draw. I've wanted to draw like this ever since I was a kid. So anyway, my plan is to come in here with my big grinder and basically grind out a little pocket where this can fit inside, and then put some chamfers on it too, so I can get a nice thick weld bead in there. This steel here is 4340. This is a steel that I make all my punches out of, EN24. This steel is probably similar sort of chrome steel, but it does have a chrome plating on it. Sorry, this is a nickel steel, I apologize. This does have a chrome plating on it though, so I'm gonna grind the surrounding areas so I don't inhale that chrome when I weld it. two pieces together, which is good. You know, I gave it a preheat beforehand, and now I'm doing a post-heat. It's just outside the forge, slowly cooling down. I'm very much a layman when it comes to welding, but my understanding of when you're welding dissimilar metals with decent amounts of alloying components is if you do a preheat and a post-heat, you can mitigate against there being, I believe it's called a heat-affected zone, right next to the weld, I think, where it heats up and then the rest of the material sucks it away, it gets really cool really fast, becomes brittle, and then you end up having the potential to break a weld, or at least break the material right next to the weld. So I'm doing that post-heat, then I'm gonna put the twist, well, what is going to be the twist of Damascus, back in the fire, and we're gonna start wrenching on that and giving it a nice tight twist. Okay, so I think I've now twisted enough. I worry that if I twist any more, it's gonna actually just ring and shear off. So I've put it back in the fire. You can see it's still really thick. It's about 35 millimeters thick, 1.5 inches thick, and round in cross section. I do want it to be round in cross section, but I want to break it down some more. So I'm gonna take a welding heat, come back to the power hammer, draw it down to square, 25, maybe 30 millimeters, I'm not too fussed. Then take it to an octagon and then take it to a round. Hopefully I'm gonna have the length I need for this little pipe whistle, and then from there, I'm gonna be able to let it anneal and then move to the lathe. So here's the finished, drawn out piece. It's round, it's about as straight as I think I can get it there. So what I'm now gonna do is I've turned off the forge. I'm gonna let this sit in there. And we're gonna let it cool down nice and slow. So once this thing is cooled down and annealed and is nice and soft, the next step's gonna be going to the lathe. So I'd love to get you guys' thoughts on whether this seems like an appropriate progression on the lathe. Here's what I'm thinking. I'm gonna take what I have now, which is a very, very chunky piece of material, much thicker than it needs to be. I'm gonna chuck it up from one end, and then I'm gonna turn down the diameter a couple of millimeters for most of the body, flip it over, then I have this to chuck up on the other end, turn that down, so at least I have a parallel bar. From there, I think while it's nice and thick, I'm then going to bore my hole the whole way through. It's a 13 millimeter hole. Probably, what is that going to be, in 1/16 of an inch? That's probably 9/16 of an inch or so. Gonna bore that hole all the way through. I've got a nice long drill bit, so I should be able to do that. From there, I think I'm gonna start turning it down to final dimension. Of course, because there's gonna be very little support, I think I'm probably gonna have to put the things in the lathe, which I don't know what they're called, but the things where you support it in the middle while I turn it, as well as turning it on a center on the end. That seems to be how I think I'm gonna go about it. Once I have my tube, and I have the end turned down suitably to accept the nozzle, the end of it, I'm then gonna basically just throw it up in the mill and drill some holes, and that should be the flute, I guess, then ready to polish and finish and move on from there. I'd love to get your guys' ideas on whether that seems like an appropriate way of going about it. Hey, there we go, Benedict. That's what I'm talking about. Benedict is a blacksmith apprentice in Germany, and he's a friend of mine, and he's here visiting for the week. So it's great having you here, Benedict. Thanks for the awesome project idea. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed. I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow on part 2 of this episode, where hopefully we get to make my Damascus steel... What is it called again? I forgot what it's... What?
Tin whistle.
Tin whistle, where we get my Damascus steel tin whistle to sound like that. Thank you, Benedict, for the fantastic music, and thank you guys for watching. Be sure to check out part 2 if you're here in the future. There'll be a link below, and at the end of this video, there's also going to be a card. There's one other thing I want to talk about too, because I don't talk about it enough. I get a lot of emails where people are asking, how do I get into blacksmithing for the first time? The actual fact is, I have an online school that can probably help you out a good bit. In fact, I'm pretty damn confident it's going to help you out a great bit. I've got several online courses that'll take you through the entire process of starting blacksmithing with a tiny, tiny budget, $90 in fact, with my How to Start Blacksmithing online course. The course only costs $29, pretty awesome. I've then got intermediate blacksmithing courses. I've also got the Evolution of Toolmaking online course. All that stuff, it's a really great way to get into the craft of blacksmithing. If you practice that stuff, I'm sure you're going to be in great stead for continuing and excelling in your blacksmithing craft. So please go sure to check that out. There's always a link in my videos to that. It's beginblacksmithing.com. But thanks again, guys. Be sure to check out part 2 of this video at the button right here. You can click that if you're on a phone. You can click it if you're on the computer. And of course, be sure to subscribe, because I love making videos for you guys. It's a massive amount of fun. And of course, I'll see you tomorrow on the next episode. Have a great one. Bye-bye.